Hey guys, welcome to Monday night. Tonight's going to be an interesting one because Shakti doesn't have a whole lot of a voice. So we will see how tonight goes. All right. At first I was like, are you saying hey Shakti through our page?
I am here.
Hi.
I look a mess. You can tell I've been in a rough place.
You look amazing.
Yikes. Yikes.
Well, I almost forgot to put on my shirt tonight. So I was like, oh yeah, I have a shirt to wear.
Rough time around these parts these days. Y'all can tell by my voice, it's really non-existent, which means that I will not be doing a whole lot of talking. I don't know what is going on with my throat chakra right now. I have a few ideas of what's going on. I'm not a fan. Let me just say that.
I was just saying right before you hopped on, I was like, Shakti's been sick, so this will be a little bit different tonight.
I really do feel like it's all about my throat, like the throat chakra. That's what
makes total sense.
I didn't get sick anywhere else. Like I didn't get my nose didn't get stuffy, my eyes, it was just all here. Yep. I'm like, great. Genetic changes, chakras opening, closing, exploding. I don't know.
Chakras exploding. It's an explosion of chakras.
I have no idea what the fuck's going on right now. I really don't.
If you guys are here live, let us know you're here. If you're on the replay afterwards, let us know you're watching the replay. I'm just sharing this to one more spot, and then we'll start talking.
I'm gonna share also. I forgot about the sharing. I look dark though. Like, am I super dark to you?
No.
Okay. I don't know. I can't get the lighting right on this all right now.
I forgot what I was doing. Okay. All right. Shared. I almost made tea and then I didn't. But last night I made tea and I forgot about it. Like I made tea and I was steeping the bag and then I walked out of the room. And then like 2 hours later, I came back to turn off lights to go to bed. And I was like, oh yeah, I made tea and
I've done that before.
So I guess I wasn't meant to drink tea last night.
Some ghost had it for you.
Well, yeah, except for the fact that it was totally full.
Didn't like it very much. You're like, this girl's taste in tea is terrible.
It's actually not good. Like, I've gotten two.
See?
Well,
See? I'm telling you.
The
ghost did not like it either.
No, so
I knew that.
This sweet cinnamon spice, it sounds delicious. It's not that good. It's not.
I told you.
So
they had the same opinion of the tea. They're like, this is terrible.
I feel like I need guidance in choosing tea because apparently my intuition when it comes to choosing tea is not on point. I go to the tea aisle and I'm like, I'm gonna get some delicious tea, and like every tea I choose is fucking terrible. So if you guys have recommendations, feel free to message me. Let me know.
I have a really easy way of finding a tea. Grab the tea box, hold it to your chest, and see if you tilt forward or backwards. That'll let you know if you're gonna like it or not. It's gonna work for you.
Margie would love
I do that with everything. I'm the crazy bitch in the grocery store that's kinesio testing literally everything. So I'll be standing in an aisle with a bottle of something weird, holding it to my chest and being like, am I leaning? What's going on? I literally did that today in public. I sure did. I leaned back. I was like, this shit ain't for me. I swear to God.
Awesome. I'm gonna start
It
doing
fucking
that.
works.
Yeah. Well, I know.
It works.
I knew that, right, from when I met Margie at the bakery, and we were learning about the fact that I don't have a gluten intolerance, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't. She was teaching me with like the links, right? But I didn't know about the leaning. But it's probably the leaning is probably easier for me to notice, actually.
Yeah. For me, it's easier to notice too. This is not quite as effective, but I noticed it too. I had the same thing with gluten, and I had the same thing with dairy. I don't have a reaction to it. I put it up to my chest, and I'm fine. I lean forward. But it's so easy to just, when you relax and you hold something, to notice the sway. And you will notice it. Your body becomes a pendulum immediately, and it just tells you, like, this works, this doesn't work. And you're like, okay, put it back or take it with you. Pretty fast. So there's like a pro tip at the beginning of this video.
Yeah, there you go, guys. You're welcome.
Making...
All because I was drinking shitty tea. Who knew?
And we need an infomercial. No longer pick shitty food items. How to know if they're gonna work.
And after this podcast, I'm totally gonna put the tea to my chest and see what happens. Like,
stand up. Make sure you're standing.
Oh, I was like, okay, we're doing it now. You're like live.
No, just make sure you're standing when you do it. It's not the same if you're not standing.
All right. Well, now that we started off weird, we've got Shakti's weird hair. I'm holding tea to my chest for people who are just hopping on. What the fuck are they talking about?
It's also a full moon, P.S., by the way, like tomorrow. Yeah. So energy is insane right now. And I was like, why do I feel so, like, I'm feeling it right now. This past new moon to full moon, this 2-week like time frame has been killer for me in like extremes. I've gone from feeling like really elated and feeling so much momentum and joy and expansion, and then crashing into sickness hardcore, which is part of where this topic, like the inspiration, came from. Right. Because Ann and I have both been kind of experiencing that, and we're like, we really need to talk about why taking time for yourself and like reflecting is really important to avoid things like a massive disease falling upon you.
So I'll launch into how this came about, right? Yeah. So as always, Shakti and I talk every single day about our own lives. And this was on Sunday, I believe. I don't know, Saturday, Sunday, something like Sunday, I think. Because Sunday is like my one day where I don't do shit, in theory. I've set up my schedule so that Tuesday through Thursday I take clients, but then Monday, Friday, and Saturday are really just completely based off of inspiration. Whatever I feel called to do, I follow that joy, I follow that calling. But Sundays are my days to like completely unplug and not do anything. So on Sunday, I was out in the hammock trying to read a book and like really finding that I was having a hard time concentrating. It was like my intuition was telling me to go lie in the hammock and read and relax. And ego was like, you need to work, you need to work, you need to work, you need to work. There's all these things that need to be done. And there are people counting on you, right? There's all this responsibility. There's all these things to do. Yeah. There are people who need you. There are people who are counting on you. You have responsibility. You're a leader. All these stories, right? And so I'm like reaching out to Shakti and I'm like, I mean, I would really love to just fucking relax and just enjoy my time reading. But it's like, I enjoy reading, and yet it's like every page I have this urge to check my phone, right? Mm-hmm. And I even struggle with like leaving my phone away from me because I'm like, what if I miss something? It's the fear of missing out, right? Total FOMO. Mm-hmm. So then Shakti's telling me, she's like, yeah, girl, like I'm feeling, I've been sick, and I'm obviously having the urge to take care of myself. I need to be taking care of myself. And yet, like, this is what I wanted. Like, I wanted to create this business around having the freedom, right? We are entrepreneurs. Mm-hmm. All those of you who are entrepreneurs or who want to be entrepreneurs, like, there's this desire for freedom, not just the financial freedom, but the time freedom, the schedule freedom. Yeah, and yet we don't give ourselves the fucking freedom, And so Shakti was like, I have the time freedom, the schedule freedom to take care of myself. And yet I'm like feeling like I should be working. I'm feeling like I want to be working. I'm feeling like, I can't take this day off, even though this is what I've been working the past 2 days or 2 days, 2 years towards building this. And yet I'm still struggling to enjoy it. And so then as our conversation was continuing, she was like, we're really sending mixed messages to the universe if we're saying I want this thing, I want the schedule, but then we're not actually following through. And I was like, it's totally true, right? Because I built my schedule I built my schedule before I ever had the clients. I built my schedule before I ever had the successful business, because I knew that in order to receive what I was wanting to receive, I needed to first live in the energy of what it is that I was wanting. So before I ever had the clients and the successful business and everything, I set up I asked myself, how many days a week do you want to work? 3 sounds good. I only want to work 3 days a week where I am responsible for showing up for clients, or for now, having coaches on my team. I only wanted to be responsible for showing up 3 days a week. Didn't mean that I was going to then tie my hands together that I couldn't show up the other days. But I only wanted to be responsible for those days because there are other things I'm doing. I'm in the process of writing multiple books. I'm recording a podcast. I'm living on the road and experiencing life in that way. But what I found was that if I didn't plan out and create the schedule that I wanted, then everything was kind of flowing into each other, and it felt like I couldn't see where things were, right? So I wasn't setting aside the time to write, because I would say, well, I can't write because I only have an hour between client calls, or I can't write because whatever. So finally I was like, okay, Tuesday through Thursday are my client days. Monday is my writing day. Friday is my additional self-care. You guys know that I have a morning routine and I preach self-care, but additional self-care. So like massages, pedicures, like that type of self-care that I don't necessarily do on like a daily basis, right? So additional self-care, and then just like really just finding the fun, just really focusing on like what would bring me the most joy today, like really relishing in that. When you have a typical 9-to-5 job, Fridays are like, God, I mean, the energy of Friday is just like, you can't wait for the weekend, so it's like, that's kind of what I was wanting on that Friday, was just almost that feeling of like playing hooky, you know what I mean? And then Saturday, if I felt like there was any kind of like catch up or whatever, catch up on that, and then Sunday completely relax. But ego has really, really struggled with this, because ego's just like, well, there's always more to do. Well, of course, as an entrepreneur, there's always something you can be doing. But just because there's always something you could be doing does not mean that you need to be doing it all the time.
Yep. In my case, I did build this business over the past 2 years to get me to a point where I built it while I was on maternity leave. So I built it because I saw how much I struggled when I had my son, and we burned through our savings account and had no money, and I was not going to go back to work full time. And I was like, this sucks. I was so stressed out those first few months of his life about money. I couldn't really enjoy being present with him. And then that's when I started a business. And then I was like, I'm going to create a life where that's never going to happen again. Where no matter what happens, whether it's another baby or getting sick or needing to go visit family, like I don't have to think about time or the finances to be able to do what I need to do. And then I get sick on Sunday. Was it Sunday?
I think you got sick before.
Saturday.
Yeah, Saturday, but Sunday was like when we had this conversation.
Really sick on Saturday. And I was like, here I am with money in my bank account, like comfortable money in my bank account, achieving something I had always wanted to do, now living at a point where there's always comfortable money in my bank account, with the time to rest, because I don't have to worry about missing out on money. I had to call out of the spa. I still work as a therapist a few days a week, and I had to call out. I was like, I can't go see, there's no way I can go see clients. And typically doing something like that would freak me out, because that's income. That's income that I am passing up, and Saturday is a very busy day for therapists. I didn't have to have that concern. That didn't have to be on my mind at all. It was extremely comfortable. I knew everything was going to be okay. Business is great. And here I am sitting, able to rest and take care of myself. And I'm like anxious. I'm like being called to work from an egoic place, not from an inspired place. I barely had energy for myself. Excuse me. There's going to be a lot of that tonight. But as I sat and reflected on that, I'm like, that is a wound right there. That is a wound of some kind. And for me, I know what it is. For me, it's very closely tied to activity needs worth. And if I'm not being active, if I'm not being productive, then I'm not worthy. I'm not worth anything. My value is tied to how much I can produce or how much I can show up. And it's relaxing, doesn't have any value, right, in the eyes of society. So I don't value it very much. That's been the story that I've lived into a long time. At the same time, I've lived into a story where the only times I allowed myself to rest were when I got sick. So here I am, not slowing down. My body initially was like, maybe you should rest. And I get miserably sick. And now I'm like, oh, okay. So all that to say that time for you is essential. It's not a luxury. It's not an add-on. It is the whole point of you being alive, is to get to know yourself. And how you do that is by spending quiet time with yourself.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing that we talked about that day on Sunday, yesterday? I'm like, today's only Monday. So this all happened yesterday.
Yeah.
Today's been a long day, in a good way, but it's been a long day. The other thing that we talked about in that conversation, which was really interesting, was, again, this myth that so many people have, right? That when I have the money, I'll be happy. When I have the money, I can finally relax. When I have the money, I'll take the time off. When I have the job, I'll do the, when I have the blank, 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 then I can be happy. Then I can relax. Then I can be comfortable. Then I will be worthy. Then I will bullshit.
Oh, yeah.
It's all bullshit, right? So Shakti and I are reflecting on this, and we're like, well, isn't that some shit? Isn't that some shit, right? That we had this whole thing, for me, it was when I'm on the road. When I'm on the road, then I can finally relax. Then I can finally enjoy myself. Then I can finally explore, right? Because I couldn't do that stuck in small town Mississippi. And here I am. I wanted to be on the road. I wanted to, I'm exactly where I want to be. And who is stuck inside on her computer? Because ego is telling me that that's where I need to be, right? So it's a bullshit story when we tell ourselves that when I have X, then I can feel Y, right? So you have to feel it first. And like Shakti said, our whole purpose is to spend time with ourselves. Our whole purpose is to connect with ourselves. You don't know what you want to do, where you want to go, any of that, if you're not going within and spending time with yourself. This is why she and I both preach self-care on a daily basis. It has to be priority. Like, it has to be priority, because then otherwise you're going to be constantly falling into these egoic nudges of, you need to do that to be happy. You need to have more of this. And you're going to be running yourself into the ground until you are finally forced to take care of yourself.
Yeah, and it's so true, because people do that a lot with money. Once I have the money, I'm going to feel blank. Here I was, sitting in the money, feeling fucking egoic as fuck. I was like, money didn't do shit for my anxiety. I see the money and I'm still anxious as fuck. Like, that clearly didn't work. That was not the answer to my anxiety. And I'm living fucking proof of that. Like, I have now proved that to myself. Furthermore, I mean, some of you guys know that I channel. Maybe not all of you guys know that I channel, but I do. And I have been ignoring doing that work for a while. This is my relationship with channeling, okay? I come and I go and I run and I freak out, and this has been a story of mine as well, that being a channel is weird. And, and I have to deal with that. That's something I'm actively healing. But today I had this urge to channel write. And it was so funny, because I have been avoiding meditating. I personally have been avoiding sitting in the quiet. and doing that part of my work. And then through the channeling, it was like, why are you avoiding that? Like the very first thing that I was reprimanded for was that. And I was like, God damn it, I knew you were going to say that. I knew that was going to come out of the collective and fucking nail me across the face. I knew it. And the collective was like, so I'm early in the relationships of channeling a collective, and I don't know a lot about this. I'm very new to this. They came to me last August. They've sort of been around for a while. It's kind of like Abraham and Esther and Abraham Hicks, if you know anything about that. That's a similar relationship, but I'm so early in this that there's no name, there's no like anything. It's just like very young. But what basically came through was like, we want to work through you to bring messages that are of essence to the planet at this moment. The problem is that you're not getting quiet enough to hear them and receive us. So we can't actively give you what you need from us for you to do the work you came here to do. And that's not just a message for me. Like, that's a message for all of you guys. Not all of us are going to be channeling collectives, but even still, in the quiet is where you get the urges, the nudges, the hints, the hunches of what's yours to do and where you're supposed to go and serve and show up. So if you're walking around confused, like, I don't know who I am, I don't know what I'm supposed to do, fucking meditate. Go get quiet. Go into yourself, because you can't receive if you're not doing that. That's essential. It's an essential component. And I am fully called out now by my collective babysitters, apparently. So I will be doing that again, because they do not think it's funny to avoid that at all.
No, and this is exactly why I teach what I teach, right? Like, I have set up my 3-month coaching structure for this. This exactly, right? The very first month is all about self-care. And we don't move on to mindset until you have nailed your self-care routine. Because nothing else fucking matters until you have nailed your self-care routine, period. Right? And then in month 2, then it's finally mindset and looking at ego and creating and cultivating a healthy relationship with ego. And then after that, then it's tapping into your intuition so that you can trust the message that you receive. But like Shakti said, you're not receiving any fucking messages if you're not sitting in the quiet, which is why I require my clients to meditate. I don't care what you do, but you have to meditate. You have to meditate on a daily basis. And part of the reason, like, I know that I can sometimes struggle to show up in that way. So I created accountability for myself. Those of you who are in the Own Your Vibe virtual classroom, the reason I do live meditations, I love you guys, but it's not for you. It's for me.
I love you, but it ain't for you.
It is. It's not. It's not. And that's the thing. If you're in a teacher role, what you teach is what you need. So Shakti and I also teach exactly what we need. So when I show up for an hour every single morning to meditate, I can guarantee you that I would be slipping off if I didn't have that form of accountability to show up for every single morning. Because there are mornings, most mornings, when I roll out of bed, I'm like, I do not want to meditate today. I do not fucking want to meditate. And I sure as hell don't want to meditate for an hour. I sure as hell don't want to meditate for an hour. But I get out, I sit my ass on that pillow, and I meditate for an hour every fucking morning. And it has changed my life. It has completely changed my life. And I'm so much more in tune. And then I've started incorporating the intuitive writing, probably a different process than what Shakti does, but it's both intuitive writing. And I received the exact same message. Go outside on that deck, leave your phone behind, and connect. Connect. Like, I kept hearing, connect with me. Spend time with me. That is your soul saying, leave the shit behind, leave the ego behind, leave the material world behind, go out in nature. If that's what helps you. For me, I connect really easily when I'm outside. Go out there and just spend time with me. And I've heard that message in my journey over and over and over and over again. Every single time I neglect myself on some level, the strongest message that comes to me is, why don't you want to spend time with me? Like, why don't you want to spend time with me? It's my soul saying, like, why are you wanting to be disconnected from me?
So I just had a very strong collective channeling message. And they say that it is very important for you to understand and trust that your desires are good. That what keeps people from doing this whole spending time with themselves and um, following their joy and their bliss, which is usually how people spend time with themselves, is a lack of trust that the desire to do that is a good desire. There's this like fear that doing something that feels good to you and is good for you is bad for you, actually. That it is in some way harmful or negligent or selfish. But the word trust is like the word they're giving me. Like, it's very important that people understand that they need to trust their own desires, that they need to trust that their desires are good, inherently good, that they're not manipulative, they're not selfish, they're good, they're born of a good place. And when you trust that, spending time with yourself, taking time away from your life is a naturally good desire, you will be much more inclined to do it.
Yeah, we're taught to not feel good. Mm-hmm. We're taught to not feel good, right? Mm-hmm. We're conditioned to not feel good. We're shamed
out of feeling good.
Yeah, and we're conditioned to not feel good, so that when we feel like shit, we can then invest in all the numbing techniques to numb ourselves.
Yeah,
this has been an ongoing forever thing, right? And when Shakti was talking about trusting that like feeling good is a good thing, right? I think about how many times have we said to ourselves, if something tastes good, well, it can't be good for us because it tastes good.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. Or that sex is wrong because it feels good.
Sex. Oh, it's so big in sex, girl. So big.
I mean,
like,
seriously.
Feeling good is dirty. Even though you're married to like your husband or your wife and you're like in the middle of sex with them and you're like turned off because this is dirty. Like that deep-seated, it feels too good to be good.
Yep.
It's too good to be true. There's even a saying.
Yep.
It's used all the freaking time.
Yep. It's too good to be good. Too good to be true. Waiting for the other shoe to drop. You're always waiting for the good feeling to end. There's this expectation, and this is where self-sabotage comes in. There's an expectation that you can't feel good long enough, so therefore you sabotage what's going on. If you have a relationship, it's too good to be true, so let me sabotage that. Oh, my weight loss is going really well, too good to be true, better fucking sabotage that. Like everything's going, money's coming in. Oh, that's too easy. Better fucking sabotage that. Like, I mean, it's every area of your life where it's like, wait a second, I'm not supposed to feel good. Let me cut that shit off. And we do it all the time.
Yep. Yeah, and that that message was like super strong. That the word trust more than anything was really important. I think we need to work on really learning to trust ourselves. But that, you learn to do that when you spend time in the quiet. And
well, that's exactly what we talked about.
You get to that place where like, like, is this mine or not mine? Like, it's very simple. And you can practice this throughout your day, guys. Like, if you're making a choice on lunch, okay, it's as simple as starting with like everyday things. Do I want to eat this or do I want to eat that? Why do I want to eat this versus that? Like, what's your first reaction? And then why? Like, why is that? Just explore your choices. Get curious about why you choose this over that. Don't just make these automatic choices and then don't think about them. Ask yourself, like, why am I choosing this over this? Like, notice what you feel pulled to first. And you can, by doing that, you build self-trust with what you actually want, who you are.
When you were talking earlier about not just the trust, but the manipulation, right? That sometimes there's this belief of manipulation. And I had that moment today, so I shared on my page that an intention that and this also goes into what you're just talking about, trusting yourself and asking. But so I shared on my page today, I set an intention. It really wasn't that long ago. I think it was less than a month ago, maybe. I set an intention that I wanted a car. I needed a car, right? I'm renting a car right now on a monthly basis. And not only did I want a car, but I wanted the car to be free. And so ego, of course, was like,
played.
Right? I mean, I got very specific about what I wanted. I mean, yeah, I was like, I want a car and I want it to be free. Well, ego clearly was like, that's just not going to happen. Like, that's not realistic, right? Realistic comes up a lot. That's not realistic. I was like, I don't really care when it happens, how it happens. I don't really care if it happens, but I'm just putting it out there that this is a desire that I have. So I let it go then, right? I set the intention and then I let it go, and I just continued on with my life, totally being fine with continuing to rent every single month, because that's what I've been doing. That's been my norm. So then today I received a text message from a family member basically saying that they are buying a new car this summer, and they would like to offer me their used car. And I was like, well, ain't that some shit? I was like, that happened
Ain't
so
that
fast.
some shit?
I mean, seriously, like, guys, for a free car, that happened really fucking fast, right? But this is also part of it when we say, like, oh, it's going to take forever. You don't know that. It's going to take forever if you think it's going to take forever. I had no resistance around it because I had no expectations. I released all expectations to receiving a free car. I just knew that would be really awesome. It's something that I wanted. But then as so then first, before I accepted, right, I have a history of being very impulsive with my ego. So I was like, before I say yes, let me just go check with myself. So I sat down on my meditation pillow and I, again, wrote out a question from ego, like, is this of the highest good to accept this car? And then I just sat there and just listened for the answer and felt where it was in my body. And it was in my heart, right? It was in my heart that, yes, this is of the highest good. So I accepted the car and I was excited about it, right? Because I was like, that's so great. Like, this is so generous of this person. But then as I was just noticing how, like, what I was thinking and how I was feeling throughout the day, then ego started to say, you manipulated that. You manipulated that person. And then all of a sudden it became a bad thing. Right? It became this like negative thing that I had received, because it was like, it was almost like ego was like, oh, you played these mind games or you control, it's just like, but we're creating our reality all the time. All the time. We're always setting intentions. We're always setting desires out there. We're always doing it, right? It's just that I was intentional about what I wanted. I was intentional about what I was saying. I was intentional about my energy. I was intentional about it, and this is what came back. But it's funny, right? That ego's like, you manipulative bitch. That's wrong. It's evil. It's bad. It's, because you're not supposed to feel good. So, and it's not supposed to be that easy. If it's that easy, then there must be something really shady about it.
And here's the other, like, catcher of this story is the avenue through which it comes through. You don't get to choose that.
Yeah.
You don't get to choose how it shows up in your life. You just ask. And actually, excuse me, today's day one of our the Game of Life and How to Play It group. I have a free group going on right now for this book, actually. And the quote that I chose to share in the group is, the secret is to wish without worry, www. And that's exactly what we're talking about. Like, that's exactly what we're talking about. And when we allow ourselves to just, like, be calm and be cool and be present and be with ourselves and hold our wishes within us and just experience this level of feel-goodness throughout ourselves, it engages this, like, freak out, doubt, fear, worry thing. The ego's like, whoa, what? Like, understand that there's a very strong collective energy behind shaming good feelings. So you're not an independent bot separate from the collective weight of things. So you are going to feel the collective pressure to feel the shame for feeling good, for having what you want, for whatever you are. And you might see it manifested in interactions with other people where other people shame you for feeling good, for having the life that you have, for manifesting what you have. And that happening is an even more important message for you to go within and spend time with yourself and honor what you have created. Because should you allow what you have created to be tarnished by these feelings of shame collectively, you will now be sending the message to the universe that you no longer want to be given what you want, right? Because you don't want to experience shame. And there you go, through manifestation constipation all over again. Starting the cycle all over again.
Right. So the awareness is really key for sure.
It's real.
Yeah. The awareness is really key.
Yeah, for sure.
There's something I was going to say while you were talking, and then it completely left me.
They're like, oh, it's okay.
Yeah.
That's really all I wanted to say on the subject. I'm surprised that my voice has held up as well as it has.
I know.
I've coughed a couple times, but it's been okay.
No, you've been good. We weren't sure if we were going to be able to hop on tonight. I was like, do you want to cancel? Do you want to reschedule? She was like, I mean, as long as you don't mind doing the majority of the talking. And I was like, I'm fine. As long as we talk on something that I have, like, can really spew on, which I can spew on this all day. So.
And me coughing. Sorry, guys, watching the replay. It's like super sexy, but this is where I'm at.
No, the message was really important. I'm glad that we actually hopped on tonight to do it.
I'm also glad that we did.
We just, Shakti and I hear so much, so often from people that there are reasons why you can't show up for yourself. And something that I have said to multiple people, whether it's clients or people that I teach live, in classes, I always say there is nothing or no one more important than you. Period. Mm-hmm. There is nothing in this life that has more value or is more important than you. There is no one in your life that has more value or is more important than you. But we have been conditioned to constantly put ourselves on the back burner. And it has to stop, guys. Like, it has to stop. You have to start showing up for yourself every single day, no matter what. I'm so glad you're hopping on, Cindy. No matter what. Yeah. And one thing that I continue to hear from multiple people as well is, well, the week went pretty well. I showed up the majority of the week, but then whatever day was really, really, really busy, so I couldn't. You guys, if there's a day that's like really, 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 really busy, that's the one day that you have to show up for yourself. Like you have to show up for yourself on the days where you're like, I don't know how I'm gonna fit it in. My favorite Gabby Bernstein quotes is when people say to me, I don't have time to meditate, I say to them, do you have time to feel like shit?
Nope.
When you say my day is so jam-packed that I don't have time to work out, I don't have time to eat nutritious food, I don't have time to meditate, then what you're saying is I have time for sickness and I have time to feel like shit. That's exactly what you're saying.
Yep. There's like a Buddhist parable about that too, where someone goes up to him and is like, I don't have 20 minutes of meditating. He's like, oh, that's serious. Then you need an hour.
Yes. Yes.
Like, oh, that's terrible. Then you need an hour.
Because here's what happens when you meditate. You go in with like this list of shit. You can't see us on off screen. This list of shit that you think needs to be done. Or all these problems. Oh, problems. Here's one. Okay. So you go into meditation with all these problems, right? All this shit that's on your mind. And then when you leave meditation, all of a sudden, they don't matter. So all the problems that were going to take up your time, all the problems that you're like, oh my God, today is so chaotic and so busy, I don't have time. If you would sit and fucking meditate, most of them wouldn't even be problems anymore. Like I cannot tell you how many things I have thought were problems, and then I decided to just divert my energy, and they solve themselves. Like so many things.
Like they're like, I just sit down and I think about all these things, and I'm like, then keep sitting until you stop. Like that's how it works. Everyone sits down and has the laundry list in their head. You just gotta sit there until it's done.
Yeah. And every day, this is the thing. I sit down for an hour every single day, and every day I'm like, here we go again.
Yeah.
It's just going, right? But when I went to a meditation retreat in Mississippi, one of the teachers, who's one of my all-time favorite teachers, one of the things that she said that really stuck with me was she said, when you sit and meditate and all the thoughts are going, those are all these like repressed emotions that you've been holding on to. And when you sit and meditate, it allows them to rise to the surface so that they can leave. But what happens is that when you're not sitting in meditation, you're shoving that shit down constantly, and you're not taking the time to allow it to rise and leave you. The fact that it's going is actually a good sign. It's not that anything is going wrong, or that you're fucking it up, or you're not doing it right, or that something's going wrong. That's not what's happening. What's happening is that everything that you've been pushing down for so long is finally rising to the surface so that you can see it, and then it can leave. And then when those thoughts come back, because they will, right? I mean, we have these old beliefs and old thought patterns, they're going to come back. But you're like, oh, yeah, no, that's interesting. I think about that shit all the time. Like every single day that comes back, that's an old thought. And you don't have to give it energy anymore. And so often we have these thoughts that are circulating. And because we haven't taken the time to really sit and observe them, we back them with energy. And when you back those thoughts with energy, that's what you're creating in your life. But when we spend the time in meditation every single day to observe our thoughts, then when those thoughts come back and you're like, oh, that's a really consistent thought, but I don't need to believe that anymore. You don't give it energy. Therefore, it doesn't have the power to create within your life. It's not the thoughts that create. It's the emotion that the energy, right? The energy that you back your thoughts with that create in your life. Meditation is incredibly powerful.
From a body worker's perspective, the speed at which our lives occur are not the speed at which our body processes or our emotions process. We move far faster than we have the capacity to assimilate, integrate, and process. So if you are just going, and you are not assimilating, you're not actually having a window of time to bring these things to the surface and be with them so you know what's happening and release them, you're just accumulating a whole bunch of stuff, which eventually energetically in your body becomes disease. That's what ends up happening. So having the capacity to sit and be with everything that you're processing is essential, because you are not processing at the same rate at which you're living. Remember that. You are living far faster than you are integrating and processing and releasing. So you need the window of time to move it through so that you can actually cleanse or understand or receive something, because all of the speed at which we live is insane. It's insane, and we're constantly bombarded with emotional hints or intuition or this or that, and we just don't have the time. We don't give it the time to be with it, really be with it, and gain knowledge from it and create peace, from it. And that's why you have a 35-year-old woman who still has a daddy wound, because she never has sat down to be with a daddy wound. It doesn't make any sense, because at 35 years of age, you are no longer the child that was wounded by the father. But if you sit down to really think about it, it feels as active as it did when you were the child with the father, because you have not processed, you have not integrated that component of your story into your present timeline. That is why we carry trauma into the future, that's no longer applicable to our story, that no longer has any relevance to our story. It gets trapped, literally gets trapped in the body as energy, and we don't pay it any mind. So meditation and body work to me are on the same page, in the sense that when I go get body work, I usually go into a very deep meditation, and I allow those things to really come forward. If you have a very skilled therapist that is a very good facilitator of energy, you can have that kind of an experience, and it's very cleansing. So that might be a place to start too, if you have a difficult time just being by yourself. Getting body work is a very great tool for kind of going into the quiet, but not having to be by yourself, and having someone facilitate the activation of things that might be stuck in the body for you.
Yep. I also tell my clients that they can start wherever feels good to them, right? So I mean, obviously you have guided meditation, you have silent meditation, as far as like the two main. And a lot of people like to start with guided meditation, because when you're new to meditating, you're kind of like, I don't really know what to do, so guided obviously helps because it guides you. The benefit though of silent meditation is that in silent meditation, you're able to really observe your thoughts. When you're in guided meditation, your mind is still constantly busy. It's focused on something, right? Whereas in silent meditation, then you have, you're able to observe your thoughts, and you're able to really see, right, what's rising to the surface. So I have clients who will typically start with guided, but then once they get comfortable with that, they'll either transition into silence, or they'll do a mix of like maybe 10 minutes guided, and then they'll kind of do both in their meditative practice. But I've also noticed with my clients as well that they have experienced what we experience with the really deep intuitive hits during meditation. And it's been amazing to watch my clients like all of a sudden share. They're like, oh my God, I had all this inspiration during my meditation today. I'm like, yeah, that's great. You should. Like, that's what happens, And then I had someone reach out to me today, and she was like, can I like keep a notebook next to me so I can like jot notes down? I was like, yes, please do. But that's the thing, right? So once your mind really starts to calm down, then you'll be able to receive the intuitive nudges, the intuitive hits. And when you've been practicing it long enough, then you can trust, right? Then you can trust that that idea that's coming to you is something to be acted on.
Yep. There's a lot of different forms of meditation. I mean, there's like one-point meditation. Vipassana is what Anne's talking about, which is silent meditation. Pretty traditional Buddhist meditation, Tonglen meditation, compassion meditation. There's some that have more of a purpose, some that have less, just to be in silence. But all of them lead to the same thing, which is a deeper knowing of self. And that's the whole point and goal. So wherever you feel is a good place to start, that's the good place to start.
Right.
Really.
I think that's it, unless anyone has any questions or anything they'd like to add. Kind of went off on a tangent about meditation, but it's a big piece of taking time for yourself. So
For sure. I sure have learned my lesson. Hey, my collective guidance. More on that. P.S. Stay tuned. I have a feeling I will be prompted to do a lot of channeling here forthcoming. So if you guys are into that kind of stuff, you can follow me and see what I'm into. I have a feeling my page is going to change just slightly, and it's going to become a little bit more galactically influenced here shortly.
it's only a matter of time.
Yeah, I think so. Resisting. I've been trying to not do it for a while, but I always fail at resisting my calling. I'm like, can I just not do that? I'm like the worst prophet on the planet. Like, I'm literally the person that does not want the job. I'm that person. I'm like, I don't want to do that. Can someone else do that job? And they're like, you signed up for this. Like, you actually chose this. Like, I don't think that contract is accurate. I think you forged my signature. I do not remember that. That's how I feel like with most of my life.
Sounds about right. Like, wait, I have to do the uncomfortable shit? Why? Why do I have to?
I don't remember doing that. I don't remember. I make that up. I don't. This is me arguing with my whole guidance council. You guys are probably wrong.
Shakti's like, I want to see the proof.
Show me the document, because I don't believe you people. Yeah, even us guys, we go through this, and we've been doing this work a long time, and we still have to reconnect and learn to trust. That's part of it. It never goes away. There's no arrival. Like, oh, you made it, cool. You can stop meditating. You fully trust yourself. No, that doesn't happen.
No, and you're going to go through stages too. Like, I've had moments in my meditation practice where I'm like getting into the zone like a minute in, and I'm deep like the whole time. And then I have moments like more recently, I'm just like, this is terrible. Why do I do this? I get out, I'm like, I don't feel like that hour was productive at all, and it just feels terrible. But I'm like, but I sat down and I did it, and honestly, like, that's what matters, because you're going to go through phases. It's like with anything, sometimes things are going to feel really easy and productive, and other times you're going to be like, well, that just felt like a fucking waste of an hour, but I know that something happened.
Yep. All right, y'all. Well, again, if you want to work with us, if you're interested in working with us, please message us and let us know how you can work with us. We have a couple of different opportunities and ways. Ann and I are both on the same team. We are coaches. We do health and fitness primarily. We talk about that, but obviously we're extremely spiritual. That's a huge component of our team and a huge component of how we operate in the world. So if you're interested in working with us via that capacity, we have ways to work with you. If you are already on a path of some sort and you're not looking to work with us in that capacity, but you want some one-on-one time, let us know as well. And we will let you know what we have available for us.
Yep.
But thanks so much for hopping on Mondays.
All right. I almost said, all right, ladies, but in case we have any men watching as well. All right. Have a good night. We'll talk to you guys next week. Bye.